today's panel is entitled Unity in Diversity, and I think it could not be more timely. The three guests represent three very different, diverse, beautiful countries of the European Union, and Europe's strength precisely lies in our diversity. Diversity and the rules that all of us follow. And those of you who have heard my speech, precisely the speech focused on diversity and the rules that unite all of us. We will hear from our guests how their countries are contributing to the European project with their own specificities and how people-to-people ties are at the heart of it, including in the partnership between the European Union and the people of Georgia. Let me start with Maria. Greece is often called the birthplace of democracy. Beyond the agora, which living elements of Greek heritage do you believe continue to shape Europe's identity today?
As for Greece's contribution, I mean, still today, I think two words, perseverance and determination, are the two words that characterizing what Greece and what European Union, Greece is offering to European Union, and what European Union on its turn is offering to all of us, its citizens. And also this constant will for improving our lives and giving to all the European citizens better choices, better lives, more democracy, human rights, etc. I think this is the most important things for us. Thank you.
I feel privileged as an EU ambassador on many different levels. Level number one is that since day one of my arrival, I was working with an amazing group of EU bilateral ambassadors. You see three colleagues. There are 18 of us, resident ambassadors of EU member states in Tbilisi. Each of them is representing his or her EU member state, but together all of us represent European Union. Each of us is trying in its own way to bring Georgia closer to European Union, and it has been a real privilege for me to work with such an amazing team. The second very important layer is the staff of the EU delegation. I have 60 amazing colleagues, half, 30 of them are expats coming from practically every EU member state, and 30 are Georgians, are Georgian colleagues who are truly amazing and always give me the best possible advice. And this helps me to keep going and not to lose hope that things will only get better. Let me move to Meline, and I'm sure Meline will say a few introductory words as well. But Meline, the Dutch have a reputation for being direct, pragmatic, and remarkably good at turning water into land. And I have witnessed this myself, traveling around the Netherlands. How do these very Dutch values, openness, dialogue, and practical problem solving translate into building stronger European cooperation?
It is really a pleasure to be back. I love always coming to Batumi, and especially today with so many people here attending our activities. It's really wonderful. Well, you asked about the role that the Dutch play in the European Union. I'm sure you know that the Netherlands lies at the North Sea, and a large part of our country is below sea level. So actually for centuries, the Dutch have always been fighting to keep the water out or to keep our head above water. So it has been about survival. And in order to do that, we really had to work together to reach compromise, to put our personal differences aside, because it was really purely a matter of survival for us. And I think that this skill of always looking for compromise is something that characterizes Dutch people. And it's also something that we bring to the European Union with its incredible diversity of 27 member states. We are also known to be indeed direct and straightforward. I think that's actually something we might have in common with Georgia. But that quality helps us to really get to the bottom of things, to pinpoint the real issue, not to beat around the bush, to try to find a solution. So that's also something that we contribute, I think, to the EU dialogue. And we, the Dutch, are often also, known to be bridge builders in the European Union, working together with other member states to find common compromise, to find common solutions to our issues. And being also a founding member of the European Union, of course, for us it is essential to keep this unity.
It's music to my ear when an EU member state ambassador talks about unity, compromise, and trying to find a common position, which I have to admit is always a struggle. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's a bit more challenging, but this is what the European Union is. A constant conversation among 27 to come up with a common position that would be acceptable to everyone. Turning to Leif, respect for dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights are the core values of the EU. As a German diplomat and EU citizen, why do these principles not only matter on paper, but also in daily lives?
These values are lessons learned in Europe over our history, and they are the foundations of our prosperity, cooperation, and peace also, which is very important for me as a German as well. And they are not only simple political ideals, but they govern how we live together in Europe. And I think they make our life better every day in very concrete terms. And I wanted to pick two values and speak a bit about them, how they made my life better. Human dignity, for example, just means that every human person deserves respect simply because they are human, no matter where they are coming from, rich or poor, political influential or not. And me, myself, I have the expectation towards my German government, for example, that it ensures every German citizen to live a dignified life. And Germany is far from being perfect, but there are some examples I really like. For example, when my little daughter is sick, I can stay a day at home and take care of her, and I still get paid. Or when she was born, I was able to be with her for 6 months and take parental leave, still got paid, and was able to take my job back afterwards. And if older people need assistance, they get care, or if no one, if you need more assistance, there are social protection service, for example. And I think this really matters. Another value, democracy, often talked about here over the last 2 years. I'm in Georgia as well. One aspect is if you go to the polls, then it really matters what you do and who you vote for. And I still remember when I was 18, for the first time able to vote at federal elections, I was so excited. And I really wanted to also volunteer at the polling station, count the votes in the night. And it was a very powerful feeling. And I knew it makes a difference for which party I vote. I checked the programs, and I still do that now. Wherever I'm posted abroad, I want to make sure that I can vote during German and European elections. And it still feels very powerful. And one other aspect of democracy I wanted to mention is that it requires governments to be accountable. So we have in Germany a very active civil society, we have independent media, and they can ask our government questions. And now working for the German government, I know it's a lot of work to answer these questions sometimes under the Information Freedom Act or to our parliament, but it makes the policies or the governmental work better. And so it's really worth it. Yeah. So I think these values are not always easy to uphold. In Germany, like in every other democracy, we continue to discuss these values and how we want to live together, but they are really worth to be defended. And adhering to these values is something which is very important to me, and European integration can be a way to make life for people better, because as I just explained, I think these values make our lives better, and adhering to them offers a really big chance.
You mentioned elections as a key fundament block of a much bigger construction called democracy. And here I can not but really underline how important elections are and how crucial it is for people to go and vote every 4 years and to voice their judgment on the political parties. This is what I was actively talking about before 2024 elections in Georgia, and I will keep talking about it all the time. It's everyone's responsibility and everyone's right to go and vote. It's very easy to complain. It's very easy not to be satisfied. But every 4 years, there is this moment in which, irrespectively of everything else, people should go out and express their opinion. And this is fundamental in every democratic society. Even if the electoral campaign was not the perfect one, even if access to media was not even if there were irregularities, this does not mean that people should simply give up this fundamental right to go and vote. And I have been living outside of my country for nearly 20 years. It's absolutely essential that also people who are outside of their home country are allowed to vote. I have always taken this extremely seriously, and I have always voted, irrespectively of the country I was living in my national and European elections. Last elections in my country, we have this rule that electoral polling stations cannot close before they serve the last person waiting in line. So the elections were held in the autumn, and my home country, Poland, has a very different climate from Georgia. So it was freezing cold at night. And in many places, people were waiting and queuing in lines through the whole night to cast their vote. And it was something that, from my point of view, was extremely positive, to see that people were taking this so seriously. And this is something that is built over time. Going back to Maria, Greeks and Georgians have been exchanging wine and myth since the days of Argonauts. How can these deep people-to-people ties help bring Georgia closer to its European future?
It's 35 years ago that Georgia became independent again. And almost immediately, unfortunately, because of the domestic situation, a lot of Georgians left their own countries because of the dire situation and conditions. and they fled towards Europe to find a better life. Greece was among the first, maybe the first country in the European Union which opened its doors and welcomed our Georgian friends. And maybe many of you here, we have friends or family that at some point of their lives, they lived in Greece, they worked there, and then came back, or they are still living in Greece. Greece back then was also a relatively young member of the European Union. Greece became the 10th member of the European Union back in 1981. So it was 10 years a member back then. And I'm sure that our Georgian friends, that they were welcomed in Greece back then, the difficult years for them. They benefited from what European Union and Greece was offering to them through the health system, the educational system, the social network, and many, many other things. And more on top of that, after the visa liberalization back in 2017, more and more of young Georgians were visiting Europe, and many of them, they were studying in all European countries, and they were getting acquainted with what Europe is, what this European Union, this family is all about. And that's why we have so many young people that they are really very eager for Georgia to join the European Union. So Greece was and is a part of the European Union. We have our ups and downs, we have our problems, but thanks to our unity and thanks to the solidarity of our friends and partners in the EU, we managed to overcome all these problems, and now we are again back on track. I think this is the best example for our Georgian friends, that they are contacts with Greece, that they have lived in Greece, that, we can make mistakes, but we are always willing to remedy all this and go ahead. So this is, I think, the biggest message. And unity is the most important thing for that. Unity and, the will to overcome, to discuss, for dialogue and overcome the problem.
Meline, young Georgians often look to Europe for opportunities, for inspiration. And let's be honest, sometimes for a good cup of coffee in Amsterdam or in other places. What advice would you give to young people in Batumi today who want to actively shape Georgia's European future?
And of course, we are very happy to welcome every year Georgian students who come to study in my country or who come to travel in our country. That is wonderful. But of course, being European, it's not just about studying in Europe or working in Europe or traveling in Europe. It is also about subscribing to a set of values, values such as individual freedom, such as inclusivity, democracy, things that Life was talking about and Maria were talking about. That is really what makes us European. And I know that many, many people in Georgia subscribe to these values as well. If there is one thing that I have learned about Georgians these past 3 years that I've spent here, is that Georgians in their hearts have this very deep yearning for freedom, for retaining their cultural identity, who they are, their way of life. And that's something they don't take for granted, because throughout their history, they know what it's like to have been subjugated by bigger empires. They always had to fight for this freedom. So Georgian people understand these values instinctively. And I think that for all of us who are European at heart, it's very important to live by these values in our everyday lives, really to bring them to practice, be it in our families, be it in our communities, in our cities. That is really what it means to be European, and also to realize that we are responsible for our shared future. Nobody else is responsible to keep what we have created together in Europe. Each of us has to fight for that and to live by these standards and values. So to young people also here in Batumi, that is really what I would like to give as a message, that don't think that you are very small and that you don't have a say in what's going on in your country or in your city, your own community. Each and every one of you can really play a role. And these just the few days that I've spent here again in Batumi, I've met again many young people who are so full of energy, who have so many great ideas, who are so creative, and that gives me a lot of hope about the future of this country.
Leif, cultural exchange, education, and mobility programs like Erasmus Plus have shaped an entire generation of Europeans and fair number of cross-border love stories. What role do these programs play in strengthening ties between Europe and Georgia, especially for young Georgians?
I was born in Hamburg, a port city, just like Batumi, in 1991. So I think for my generation, Erasmus was something like an obvious opportunity. We were not the first generation who was able to do this, and we already knew, okay, this is something great. And thanks to the achievements of the European Union, I was already able to go to France when I was 13 years old and live in a family there. Later, I studied in Spain with Erasmus and was an intern also in Brussels, and always with German or EU funding. So were these investments worth it? I would say yes, definitely. I started to be fascinated to experience the different cultures we have in Europe and the different ways of life, and I started to love picking some parts everywhere I have been. Belgian beer, French apéro, Spanish music, and I took all this always with me. But what I also realized is that these new friends I made from other European cities or countries, we have so much in common. We are all united in the wish to make the best out of our future, and when we discuss different ideas of society or different dreams, the dividing lines, they were never between nations, but rather between individuals. And so I made great French friends, great Belgian friends, and yeah, that's something I will always keep in mind. And I think it really makes Europe more peaceful to have these encounters. Now to Georgia, it's every week we meet young students who studied in Europe. I often meet Georgians who studied in Germany. Not surprising, because there were over 3,000 scholarships by the German Academic Exchange Service over the last 25 years who allowed Georgians to study in Germany. There's Erasmus open to Georgians since many years. And I think for these Georgians, as for me, Europe is not an abstract political concept, but something they have experienced personally. And therefore, these exchange programs are so much more than just education. At a time of growing uncertainty, these people-to-people connections help to build more trust. Every university cooperation, every research cooperation, every student exchange create more trust between Europe and Georgia. And so also it's the best when Georgians can go to Europe themselves and experience it. There's a lot of disinformation, in particular from Russia, about Europe, what it means, and when young people travel to Germany, Greece, or the Netherlands, yeah, they can make up their own mind. And it's such a great benefit to have these programs.
As a beneficiary of Erasmus Plus, and I remember that my 1 year period in Germany really helped to shape my life and completely change the way I was thinking about my own place in the world and what is Europe and what should be our future. It was, as you can guess, many, many years ago. But it was truly amazing that this program has been helping to build a common vision, common understanding of many generations now of Europeans. And it's also truly amazing that this possibility is open to young people in Georgia. As we are moving to a close, and also taking into account that Maria is leaving, and you know that when ambassadors are leaving, sometimes they are more outspoken than those who still have some time in a country. Melina is Dutch, so she always says what she thinks. And Leif is only chargé d'affaires, so it means he has no job, no boss at the moment, and he can say whatever he wants. What would be your message to the people of Georgia, to the people of Batumi, and especially what you said about the role of religion in Greece? Because Greece is a predominantly Orthodox country like Georgia, and to me personally it's extremely troublesome, I would even say painful, that in the latest anti-European narratives there is an attempt to portray European Union as incompatible with Orthodox religion. This is simply a lie. This is not true. I don't know who even created this monstrous narrative, anti-European narrative. It's not a new narrative, and I have been here exactly 4 years, and I'm watching with dismay and disbelief how creative the enemies of Georgia's EU future are. When I arrived, the predominant narrative, anti-European narrative, was that that European Union is treating Georgia unfairly or unjustly. Why? Because Ukraine and Moldova were granted candidate status, and Georgia was not immediately granted candidate status. Then, when Georgia was granted candidate status, a new narrative has been created that European Union is blackmailing and pushing Georgia to enter the war and open a second front against Russia. And we have granted candidate status to Georgia for Georgia to enter the war. When European Union was the most outspoken in support of peace and was trying to do everything in order for the war to end, helping Ukraine, putting pressure on Russia so that diplomacy can work and peace negotiations can start, entirely new narrative has been created that actually European Union is a disaster, that European Union is collapsing, that European Union is losing its place in the world, that actually it's not even worse joining the European Union because it's hunger, starvation, deprivation, and continued crisis. when faced with new challenges, our leaders again used adversities into making European Union stronger, increase our cooperation, go into spheres that never before were considered places where EU member states would work very closely together, like defense industry. Now there is a new narrative about precisely our values, the rules that European Union is built on, being incompatible with Christian Orthodox values, which is so untrue. It's so untrue because precisely this diversity is one of the founding blocks of the European Union. I'm coming from a very religious country, and the Catholic Church of Poland has never been threatened by membership of Poland in the European Union. Maria is coming from a country where Orthodoxy is the predominant religious, and never ever European Union in any way encroached on the role of the Orthodox Church in Greece. Sorry for being very long, but I think that it's very important for everyone to distinguish what is reality and what is disinformation. Meline, the floor is yours for your message.
I think I will maybe name 3 main things that my country, the Netherlands, has benefited from as part of the European Union now for almost 80 years, and how also these benefits we've tried to bring to Georgia as well in the past decades. First thing that we have benefited from is peace and stability. Being member of the European Union has made sure that we've been able to enjoy nearly 80 years of peace in our country. And I know that's something that also for Georgians, they don't take it for granted. And I'm proud that the European Union has contributed to the EU monitoring mission in Georgia since 2008. And through that mission, we have contributed to Georgia's stability and security like no other country in the world, I would say. And my country also each year sends monitors to the EU monitoring mission. The second thing that my country has benefited from is prosperity, economic growth. Being part of the European open market has greatly helped to let's say, boost our economy and guarantee prosperity. That is something that the EU has also tried to help Georgia with since its independence. Traveling around Georgia, I have met hundreds of people, small businesses, who have benefited from EU grants, EU projects to start up their own business. My own country is one of the biggest investors here. We help the Georgian small farmers, small businesses, to obtain access to finance. So that is also something that we have tried to bring to practice here in Georgia as well. The third thing that my country has benefited from being part of the European Union is individual freedom. Guarantees that every single citizen of our country can be who they want to be, can love who they want to love, can have the kind of family that they want to have. And this individual freedom, I think, is at the heart of just being a human being. And that is also something that we have tried to help, again, Georgian people with, to achieve that kind of freedom. And I must say I'm very, very proud that we continue to do so in partnership with our Georgian friends. And to the people here in Batumi, I would also like to say, we are by your side. We will continue to be here as your European friends. Like life, I'm also born, I'm not born, but I grew up at the port city, Rotterdam. And I think one thing that port cities have in common is this, openness to the world, this no-nonsense mentality that, we can do it together. And also this diversity, this multinationality. So as such, Batumi, for me, it embodies the European spirit. And I'm always very happy to be back in this beautiful place.
Germany and Georgia, we have a very long history together. Germany would love Georgia to be part of the European Union when it's ready. And then Georgia would be part of this group of friends, allies, and supporters who work together to make the future better for everyone, for all of the citizens. And this is just a really great project which I would love Georgia to be part of. So, thanks.
Dear Maria, Melina, Leif, it's my privilege to be part of this panel with you. Let me warmly thank you again for your participation. As we close, one message stands out. Europe's diversity is not an obstacle to unity. It is the very foundation of the unity. We learn from being in contact with different histories, languages, traditions. They enrich us and come together around shared values of democracy, solidarity, and cooperation. Whether reflecting on ancient ties, core EU values, people-to-people exchange, our guests have shown that being European means embracing what makes each of us unique while standing together on what we share. This is also the message for Georgia. Your path towards the European Union is not about giving up what makes you distinctly Georgian. It is about adding your own voice to a union that draws its strength precisely from diversity of every single member state. And perhaps that is the true meaning of united in diversity. Our differences do not divide us, but rather bring us closer together. Ertat. Didi Matlova.